All right, guys. Hello, everybody. I hope everyone's doing well today. Welcome to the NBA Tournament Strategy Show. And today we're going to look back at yesterday, see what went well, see what didn't go as well, and then fast forward and focus on today's slate and just do a quick walkthrough overview of some guys that we like early, some guys I want to dig a little bit deeper on throughout the day and do more research on, and some guys that I might not like already. And then, of course, later today at 5:30 p.m., we will have the NBA pre-lock show. Forgetting my own show names. At 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, we'll have the pre-lock show where we will start implementing what we're actually doing in the domination station. You guys might be wondering, hey, Josiah, why aren't you using the domination station today? And that's because it's not quite updated yet. It's still early in the day. The slate starts at 7:30. I'm sure our team is probably just resting a little bit. So I'm sure they'll have everything up and ready to go later. But let's look at yesterday's slate. Let's see how things went. What's up, Happy Dads? Good to see you, man. This was the winning nuts lineup last night. We had Russell Westbrook in there, Jordan Poole, Kelly Oubre Jr., Julius Randle, Thomas Bryant, Kyrie Irving, Jonathan Kuminga, and Rudy Gobert. Heck of a list. For me last night, I had a small loss, almost broke even perfectly. I was right at the break even point coming into the last game when I was like, this could get really bad. Like, this could be a bad losing night. But the needle literally didn't move at all in that last game. So that was a nice fade. So it ended up being a okay night, like broke even. The core I had last night was pretty fantastic. Westbrook was great. Poole was great. Thomas Bryant was great. Kuminga was great. No surprises there. Kelly Oubre, I was not on. I was higher on Rozier. I liked Oubre, but I didn't inflate my exposure to them at all. Julius Randle was a guy that I mentioned a few of the Knicks guys on the pre-lock show yesterday. I didn't increase exposure to him. That hurt a ton. I think I had maybe like 2 to 3% exposure to Randall. Definitely not enough. Thomas Bryant, we talked about him. He was great. Kyrie Irving was a pre-lock show leverage special. During the show, we put a 25% minimum on him. You did not see that on the leverage sheet. You did not see that on the core sheet, but you did see that if you played if you watched the pre-lock show, Kyrie Irving was a leverage play. And I was just like, wow, did not expect that to finally work for us. Kuminga, I was super scared about. He was a core play and it worked out. Rudy Gobert, damn it. We talked about him on the pre-lock show. We talked about how on his last 2 games, he was really, really bad. One game, I think he was ejected. Chat, let me know. The other game, he got into foul trouble. And there were some people who wanted to play him. And I said, like, hey, I am not telling you guys not to play Rudy Gobert. He is too cheap. He is too cheap for the upside he brings. I cannot keep chasing that upside. And so we talked about it. I don't know when not to play him. He was in a great spot, so it made a ton of sense. I wish I would have had more exposure to Rudy Gobert for sure. But overall, it was a decent night. It was a winnable night for sure, where if we could have went heavier on Kelly Oubre or Julius Randle, you were in the running. With that being said, my guy B-Dubs was at the top of the leaderboard for the vast majority of the night yesterday. And then towards the end there, Kuminga just didn't do quite enough to help him stay in the top 5 spots. So he still had a really good night, but we keep having guys getting so close. Would love to see a takedown here soon. So yeah, that was that slate. Now let's dig into the model a little bit. Let me know if you guys have any questions about it as we go through the slate. Happy to talk through this. It's one of my favorite tools, to be honest with you guys. It's really good at finding some of those low-owned high upside plays. I get kind of hesitant talking about it too much because I feel like if you guys get really good at understanding it, you guys might not need me anymore. All right, guys. First game, we have the Clippers against the Miami Heat. On the Clippers side, from an injury perspective, Paul George is in. allegedly yesterday during his interviews. This is a back-to-back for the Clippers. During his interviews last night, Paul George said that he plans on playing today. Sometimes organization and or coaching staff will put an X on that. He's missed quite a few games already this season. He came back yesterday. So there's a chance Paul George misses this game. So just be aware of that. That would make this slate a little bit more interesting for sure. Kawhi Leonard, I don't think anyone is expecting to play. He's unlikely to play at this point. John Wall missed yesterday's game due to the back-to-back, and so we're expecting him to play today. We've seen this play out countless times. Marcus Morris is expected to play. Norman Powell's TBD, and Luke Kennard is expected to play. So definitely a few pieces that this game is going to start at lock at 7:30 p.m. today. So I don't think we have to overreact too much. I think we'll know what's going to happen. Hopefully we'll have a good amount of time to react to it. So that's pretty much the Clippers news for the Miami Heat. Jimmy Butler is questionable. Tyler Hero is probable. Max Strus is probable. Victor Oladipo is probable. Gabe Vincent is out. Haywood Highsmith, who hurt a few people not too long ago, probable. Duncan Robinson is probable. Dwayne Dedmon is questionable. Nikola Jovic is probable. And then Omar Yurtseven is still out. Those were long lists, guys. I think for the most part, the vast majority of these guys will play. Jimmy Butler being questionable, if he plays, which I think he probably will. I think he's in play as well here. The thing I like to look at on the sim model is really just, hey, what are the odds that these guys have of hitting their true like 8x ceiling? And literally just someone having a chance, like you see Paul George, Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler, Ivica Zubac, just having that 3% chance makes them slightly more interesting for me. When someone has a 0, that is going to take a lot for me to want to consider playing that person. So the sim model, again, is not something that I live and die by, but it's just a tool that I utilize and value its opinion a lot. So you'll see that the increase of hitting 8x increases the lower in price we go. That makes sense because the cheaper you are, the less points it takes, the easier it is for you to hit that 8x ceiling. It's harder for like a 9K, 10K guy to hit 8x very often. So we see that it likes Victor Oladipo here a little bit. I do think Victor Oladipo is a very sneaky GPP play, especially if we get like Jimmy Butler out, like some of these other guys who are probable and questionable out. If some of these guys end up out, it would not surprise me if Victor Oladipo goes off tonight. Outside of that, I like some of these cheap guys like Caleb Martin, Moses Brown. Again, for me, those are more dependent upon injury news plays, so I'm not super excited about it. And then Batum is interesting. He had a nice night last night, surprisingly, a little under the radar. But he's someone else that benefits if we see guys like Paul George out and Morris and some of the guys that we're expecting to play, but if they ended up being out, then Batum would be more of an interesting play. As of right now, none of these guys are popping too hard for me. I think a lot of these guys are guys that we're going to have exposure to because of the 3-game slate. But at least this early into the day, there's not anyone that I'm really trying to force exposure to. We'll see. Things change, though. But at least as of right now, I'm feeling pretty good about not trying to force that. All right, next up, we have the Los Angeles Lakers against the Toronto Raptors. I might have that. Oh, yeah, I definitely have that wrong. Let's see. What game do we have on deck? We have Houston against the San Antonio Spurs. Nice. Stuck in yesterday. All right. So in this game, we actually have a lot of news. And surprisingly, this Rockets and Spurs game is going to be the chalk on this slate. Let me sort this by... Okay, yeah. Sort it by salary. Nice. All right, so on the Rockets side of things, we have some pretty big news. We have Kevin Porter Jr., questionable. Bruno Fernando, questionable. Josh Christopher, questionable. On the Spurs side of things, we have Devin Vassell, doubtful. Huge news. Josh Richardson is probable. Okay. Keita Bates-Diop, out. Doug McDermott, probable. Romeo Langford, probable. Jakob Poeltl is still out. That's important. Jeremy Sochan is still out. That's important. So pretty much when Vassell is off the floor, reminder, Vassell is doubtful. Keldon Johnson Jr. sees a 3.3% increase in usage, and Trey Jones sees a 2.3% increase in usage. So you're already seeing Keldon Johnson, Trey Jones are going to be popping, and they're going to be very popular today. I like Keldon Johnson a lot here. I am fine with him being popular chalk. At this point, would not shock me at all if he ends up being a core play for me. I think someone mentioned it in the chat maybe like a week or so ago, but I feel like we have Spurs chalk like every week, and it's almost like a coin flip to see if it's going to work out or not. It's like, hey, is this going to be the week that the Spurs can actually do something against the Rockets? I feel like it's a little bit of a softer matchup for them, and there's a little bit of upside here. So I'm totally fine taking the shots on Keldon Johnson here. Kevin Porter Jr. is also in play if he's playing. He's questionable right now. If he's out, and I think people are expecting him to be out, and that's why you see Jalen Green looking like he might be pretty popular today, because Jalen Green has a 31.3% usage rate when Porter Jr. is out. So Jalen Green would be very, very, very close to a must play in this spot if Kevin Porter Jr. is out. So that would definitely make the Spurs the Rockets much more interesting to play if we get the right injury news. Outside of that, Shungen has also performed extraordinarily well when Kevin Porter Jr. is out. So that's going to be why you see a lot of Shungen. On the other side of it, I mentioned on the Spurs side, Jakob Poeltl is out, and so that's why Zach Collins is going to be popping a little bit. You have to remember it's also a 3-game slate. So even though these names don't sound great and exciting to play, we're still going to have to bite the bullet on some of these guys. Charles Bassey is popping as well. Again, Jakob Poeltl is out. Bassey, his minutes are everywhere and super volatile, but he still has some ceiling, and we've seen that already throughout this season already. So I'll have some exposure. I don't know if I'll have 40% exposure. I hope that ownership falls a little bit, but definitely interesting play. Eric Gordon is someone else that I feel like people aren't really on, but he's been good this season. Surprisingly, I think he's trying to get traded. But at 3,900, with some of the upside he's shown throughout this season already, I don't want to forget about him. At 21%, he's not going to be a sneaky play, but again, most guys aren't going to be on this slate. Similar story of Romeo Langford. We've seen him have ceiling performances this season already, and the reason why he stands out is, once again, people are hoping that typically with Vassell out, people are assuming Langford and McDermott are going to move into the starting lineup. So that's why both of them are going to pop a little bit. And if they are starting, I will want exposure to both of them because they're cheap and it's a 3-game slate. So kind of have to bite the bullet. I've said that a few times now. I'll stop. Don Juan said the Dom isn't working for NBA. Yeah, it's early. It's a lock isn't until 7:30, so I'm sure they'll figure it out. Mentioned Doug McDermott already. Bruno Fernando is questionable, so we have to keep an eye on that, but this is a nice spot for him if he actually does play tonight. Isaiah Roby is someone else that we can consider. Bazzi and Roby kind of fall into the same box. Zach Collins starts for Poeltl, who's out. Bazzi and Roby are played the backup big minutes for Poeltl. And so the reason why it gets weird and why we consider Bazzi and Roby is because Pop, the coach for the Spurs, gets a little weird with their minutes. So similar to the Thunder, he can just switch up the rotation a little bit randomly. So there's not that consistency. And so that's why you'll need exposure to both. I would consider creating a rule where I don't have Robbie and Bazzi in the same lineup, but on 3-game slates, things get just weird enough where as long as I'm not seeing that combination a ton, I probably won't force the rule. All right. I think we touched base on everyone. Eason is another guy. These Rocket guys are this game is going to be a game that I have a lot of exposure to just because a lot of them have high ceilings, and some of them, like Eason and Kevin Porter, who's questionable, Doug McDermott. Like I want to have some exposure on them because we've seen these guys break slates. Even Josh Richardson. So I don't want to forget about these guys. There's injuries here which create a causation for why we want some leverage on some of these guys if we can get it. It's going to be tough because keep mentioning it, small slate, but definitely want to try to. All right, this next game has probably two of my maybe favorite DFS teams. That might be weird to say. Portland's TBD. But I do love like both of these teams on a slate. We had Jokic have a not so great game against the Mavericks. Jamal Murray also didn't have a great game against the Mavericks. I pretty much religiously have been saying that I don't like playing guys against the Mavericks because they play at such a slow pace. And I didn't listen to my own advice that day. And it didn't work out because I probably should have listened to my own advice. But I do still like playing Jokic and Jamal Murray and Bruce Brown and Aaron Gordon when Michael Porter Jr. is out. MPJ is still out, which means I'm still going to be interested in having exposure to them and probably still getting leverage here. It's something that I've been doing on like the last few small slates, and it hasn't worked out perfectly because Jamal Murray and co have not been breaking slates like they were previously. But ideally, in this matchup, they can still have strong performances. Like Jamal Murray, his usage rate is still 27.7, and he still has 1.05 fantasy points per minute. I mean, those are outstanding numbers for his price tag, and it's going to be really hard for me not to attack that. On the other side of things, Damian Lillard hasn't been fantastic since returning from his injury, but the Nuggets, and I've been saying this all year, have been really bad against guards so far this season. So that automatically makes me more interested in Damian Lillard and for me, Simons. The problem with Simons is that he's priced up still like Lillard is out. So that's really hard to attack with Lillard healthy. So that price tag is a little bit ridiculous right now. Whereas with Lillard, 9,700 isn't a great price. I'd rather him be in like the low nines. And so like the sim model doesn't love his ceiling here, but I do still like the matchup. And I'm going to consider him as a very likely probably leverage play today, to be honest. Outside of that, you guys already know it. I've already said it pretty much. I love Jokic tonight. I love Jamal Murray tonight. I love Aaron Gordon and Bruce Brown. I'm going to do the same thing I did on Tuesday, and hopefully it works this time. I'm not going to jump off of it just because it bit me in the ass last time around. So that's pretty much this slate for me, guys. We'll see what changes between now and the pre-luck show when I've dug a little bit deeper and done more research. But pretty much I'm just like, hey, I know the Nuggets have hurt us time and time again. I'm going to go back for it. If you guys don't want to join me, I think you can definitely attack the second game a lot as well. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate the support. Don't forget to like and support. It helps the channel out a ton. And so, yeah, guys, I look forward to seeing you guys later today for the pre-lock show. Good luck and peace out. Have a good one.